Hey everyone, Ryan Young, Kama Jiu-Jitsu. I hope you're doing well. Let's kind of go into a video for parents. So parents whose kids are either doing Jiu-Jitsu or who are thinking about doing Jiu-Jitsu or any other martial art for that matter for your children. First ask yourself, why do you want your kids to do martial arts? In particular, Jiu-Jitsu. A lot of people when they call me and they say, do you have any kids programs? Yes, we do. I'll ask them, I go, what are you looking for? It's not a yes or no question. They have to kind of give me an answer of what exactly they're looking for in enrolling their kids. And they're saying, well, my kid lacks confidence. He's in middle school and he's getting picked on. And those kinds of answers, that's perfect for a kid doing martial arts. Now, how young? Well, we take them, I've got them as young as 5 right now. In fact, Ginny has twin daughters who just started. They just turned 5. And that's historically much younger than I would typically go. But I've got 2 7-year-old twins that also train. They were 6 when they started with me, and they're 7 now. And they worked out just fine as well. Parents just have to realize that martial arts can be a sport activity, just like soccer or lacrosse or baseball or anything. But if you look at it in those terms, then you just have to understand that there may be less of a self-defense mindset in it. However, if you look at, say, the reason why I put my kids into it, it's because I've always been raised within the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu mindset of it's a self-defense. It's not a sport, it's not an activity. It's something that's done, you practice and you do it because you need to have these skills in life. With my kids, for example, I'll use my daughter, and because she's the younger one. She's 13, she'll be 14 very soon, but she started from when she could stand, really. And I would typically play with her, just like I did with my son. Any free moment I had, we didn't have a set time that we did it. It would just be, we'd have 5 minutes while we're standing waiting in line. I'd put my hands up, she'd put her hands up, and I'd start playing, and it would just be fun. It would be like, daddy son or daddy daughter type time. That's how I conditioned her. But when it got to a point when she was about, I would say in the 3rd grade, and it came to a point where she needed to start attending classes. She'd go, well, can I do something else? I said, yeah, you can do something else. I go, but you have to do jiu-jitsu as well. Just like the way she would have to eat in any given day, she has to do jiu-jitsu. So she would do it, same with my son, they would both do it. And it got to a point where my daughter maybe was about 6th grade, and she says, can I stop doing jiu-jitsu? I want to do something else. I go, you can do something else, but you cannot stop jiu-jitsu. Why? Because you're my daughter, and I care about you very much. And most people don't have a parent who's a black belt in jiu-jitsu who can pass these skills on to you. And me as a parent, that's my job, is to teach you how to live life and be able to protect yourself in more ways than one, right? And one of those in being in a self-defense situation. Now, here's the way I put it to her. If you want to date boys in high school, you're going to have to learn this stuff. And she says, why? And I said, because boys sometimes are not good and they want to do something to you that you don't want to happen. It would be irresponsible of me to not provide you with the tools that you need to make that not happen. And I said, being that you're very tiny, I can't guarantee that you will always come out on top. But what I can guarantee is that if I ever get that call from the police that says I need to pick my daughter up at that, or I need to come see my daughter at the hospital, I want to have every assurance I can possibly have for myself that when I go to that hospital and I see you in your room, I walk into your room, the person in the room right next door is your date that tried to do something that you did not want to happen. I want him to feel like he tried to wrestle a Wolverine. Simple as that. He may win, but he's going to wish he had not messed with you in the first place. And that's all I can hope for. Now, for you parents that are thinking of jiu-jitsu or any martial art for your child, if you're thinking of it as a sport, then go into it with the expectation that it's a sport. You're going to enter competitions and all that. Kids are going to have that kind of fun and of competing and excelling in that way. But just know that competitive success is not necessarily equivalent to self-defense success as well. You need to realize that they are often two different things. That being the case, you can then kind of look into it. Look for a school if you want competition that focuses on competition. So, your kids will be competing every weekend or maybe every other weekend. Who knows? Wherever you live. If you live in Southern California, for instance, there's tournaments all the time. Even here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, there are tournaments that are relatively frequent. You'll be able to find one at least once a month. And if that's what your goal is, you're going to be preparing for every competition, then that's fine. Treat it as any other sport. It'll keep the kids busy. It'll keep them out of trouble. They'll get in shape and they'll learn a good skill. However, if self-defense is your thing, then going to a competition-focused school may not be the real thing that you want. With a school like ours, our kids will do judo competitions. They're not doing jiu-jitsu competitions just yet. Our program is too young for that. And part of the reason is because we don't teach our kids submissions until they hit middle school. And one of the reasons is because two reasons. Number one is I don't feel it's necessary, because for younger kids, it's all about them being safe and how to get out of a bad situation. Another kid headlocks them, another kid mounts them. They don't need to know how to choke somebody out or break somebody's arm at that age. But they do need to know how to get out of a bad position through a regular situation that could happen in school, on the playground, right? Dealing with a bully in that type of situation. That's the more important thing. Or when a stranger grabs them by the arm and tries to take them, how to base and how to slow that process down until you, the parent, if your eyes were taken off of your son for a second, till you can kind of realize, oh, where is he? And you can see him. Had he been quiet about it and had he been compliant, he'd have just been picked up or taken by the hand and walked somewhere else. You want your kids to think differently. Whereas a kid who competes, maybe not, unless he knows any different. He may react just like any other kid will. So you want to make sure that you know in the first place why you're wanting to enter your child into a martial arts program. The next thing you need to look at is, with regard to the program, is it structured the way you like? As an example, if you look at these Taekwondo schools, all these franchises, they all work off of a business model, and they're primarily driven off of kids. Right? If you go to any Taekwondo school today, chances are if you enter as an adult, if you enroll as an adult, you might have just a handful of other members there. Whereas they might have 150 other students who are all kids ranging in age from age 3 up to maybe age 12. That type of program is run a little different. It's not uncommon for them to have kids practice lining up, practice yelling out things, yes, sensei, no, sensei. Think of Karate Kid, right? Kind of that type of mentality. Whereas a jiu-jitsu school like ours, much less formal, right? If you want your kid to have that type of discipline, then, perhaps a jiu-jitsu school may not be it. Jiu-jitsu, Brazilian jiu-jitsu especially, has historically been a little more relaxed in the way they do things. Less rigid than the Asian-based schools. There are some schools that actually run after-school programs where they'll actually pick your child up from school and take them to the studio, and they'll have maybe some homework time and some activity time, and then they'll have them go into a class. Let's say at 5 o'clock, and you pick your son or daughter up at 6, right? So they pick your son up at 3, and they're there for 3 hours. Do some homework, have some playtime, and then do a class. I actually think that's a pretty good idea. It's not something that I would necessarily do, only because I don't have the staff for it. And I also don't have a facility for that as well. But I think it's a great idea. And, a lot of times just having the kids in the environment, having them on the mats, having them play on the mats. One of the things that I like to do is I like to let the kids kind of play, and then let's say I want them to do something, but they're very young. You can't expect the 6, 7, 8-year-olds to be doing exactly as I want them to. And that's another thing too, for parents. Do not expect your kids to learn the jiu-jitsu as quickly as an adult will, because they don't have the attention span. At the same time, while they may be good using their thumbs and having eye coordination, like when they're playing a video game, their bodies don't have that type of coordination yet. It takes a while to learn it. Having them in the environment actually helps them. So if you're okay with that type of babysitting services and you think that they're adequate to have your child for that period of time, and you think it's a good play environment for them, then I don't see why not, and I wouldn't have a problem with it. On the other hand, if when you drop your kid off for class, and during that class time, it just seems to be like a play session for them, then I may not really like that either. If you're looking for a program to teach them something, then make sure they're learning something. Otherwise, you can do other stuff for a lot less money, because the martial arts aren't really cheap. Discipline. Discipline is something that I've heard people say, well, I want my child to learn some discipline. Okay, that then prompts me to ask a few more questions. What exactly do you mean by discipline? Because I've had kids come in and their behavior is pretty bad. What they really are looking for is they're looking for someone, a strong authority figure, to help keep their kids in line, really is what it is. But the thing is, we only have your kids for 45 minutes a day. The rest of the time is spent at home and in school. And if there's no discipline at home, then there's not much that we could do on our end. Maybe it'll get to a point where your kids are disciplined in the studio, but when they get back home, if they're incorrigible kids, they'll be just as incorrigible as they always were. That's something that, as far as discipline, that kind of starts at home. If they come into our campus, they'll be disciplined for that period of time. And that's really about it, unless you reinforce it at home. For parents though, consider also now, let's get into the submissions part. For jiu-jitsu, submissions is a big thing, chokes and arm bars. I, as a policy, don't like to teach kids that are, as I mentioned, in elementary school, how to choke somebody out or how to break somebody's arm or how to dislocate somebody's shoulder. I mean, just think about it. How does that sound? An elementary school kid, a third grader, dislocating another kid's shoulder. Or a fourth grader choking unconscious another fourth grader. That does not sound good to me. And I'm sure it does not sound good to you as well. So like I said, some schools will teach that stuff, especially the tournament ones. They'll teach the kids that. Me, myself, it can always wait, because if you think of jiu-jitsu as a banana split, how's that for a weird analogy, right? The philosophies and concepts, the positions, are your ice cream and your banana. Now, if I were to give you a dish with 3 scoops of ice cream and a split banana in there, and if I called it a banana split, I said, here, a banana split for you, would you call me a liar? You might look at it and go, well, it's missing a few things, but yeah, I see it, ice cream and bananas. I mean, those are the main ingredients of a banana split. Well, those are your positions and those are your philosophies and concepts, right? So position, being able to hold mount, or being able to get out when a kid bully mounts you, right? Arms back, pin on the ground. Being able to get out of that, that's much more important. The whipped cream, those are what we call our transitions. Transitions where you transition from one position to another, to another, to another. And your submissions, your chokes, your arm bars, joint locks, other types of stuff, that's the cherry on the top. It's not the most important part, but it's also one of the easiest parts to get. I mean, you simply get a cherry, put it on top. I mean, you've completed it. And that's what submissions are. You cannot submit anyone if you don't have an understanding of the philosophies, the concepts, the positions, and the transitions. You just will not be able to. I can teach you how to armbar, how to choke somebody, but I don't teach you how to get there, or get there from a good position, or even get there from a bad position. If you don't know how to do it, it doesn't matter. I can give you all the cherries in the world, you still won't have a banana split. For the kids, they need to learn the important stuff, the positions and the concepts. That's what we'll teach the little kids. But once they get to middle school, that's when we start introducing the chokes and the arm bars and all that. And that actually works very well. At the same time, when they're in middle school, they can more understand of what's going on, what the consequences are of choking somebody. Because you have an elementary school kid, let's say your kid's 8 years old, and they've been bullied all the time in school. And now we teach them how to choke somebody out or break somebody's arm. They're gonna get bullied, and what happens? The kid that gets bullied will have that moment in time where they just go, they lose it, right? They just go wild, and next thing you know, if that kid is well trained, and he's well trained to slap that choke on, he will put that choke on and he will not let go. And then what you have is your child is a walking liability or a walking lawsuit. How's that one, right? You don't ever want to hear about an elementary school kid doing that. On the other hand, let's say your kid gets really upset, rushes the other kid, takes him down, gets onto him, mounts him, and that's all he knows how to do. He knows how to hold them out. That kid squirms around and he stays on him long enough for a teacher or somebody to come and just stop them. Pull him off, set him over there. Other kid, here, you get up, dust him off. Are you okay? Are you hurt? No. Are you hurt? No. Okay, yeah, wipe your tears. You're good. All right, no more fighting. Go ahead, shake hands, and I want you guys to go back and play, right? No harm, no foul, right? Parents will be notified, hey, your kid got into a little scuffle, or is anybody hurt? No, nobody's hurt. They were fine. Well, what happened? Well, my son got angry. Your son got angry and he ended up taking the other kid down. Okay, what did he do? Well, he just held him down. He just, didn't let him hurt himself or anybody. And then, teacher was able to get there in time and pull him off, and everything was okay. Okay, good. Your child was then well taught, in my view, right? Well taught not to hurt anybody and just to simply stop the situation from progressing further. Parents, consider what you're looking for. If you want your kid to be an MMA fighter, then that's where you enter them in boxing and wrestling and all. You can do all that. That's fine. Everybody has a different idea on what they want their kids to do. And you as a parent, you have that luxury and you have that duty to your children as well. Just imagine the different programs that there are for martial arts, and imagine and consider what the goals are for each program. Be sure to ask a lot of questions. Call the schools that you're considering and grill that school owner and ask them, what am I to expect for my kid? What should I be looking for? What do you want me to expect once I bring my kid? And grill them. And if they can answer those questions, great. If they can't answer those questions, maybe you drop by and watch and see what happens. Maybe you don't. Maybe you just move on. That's all I got for you. And I hope this answers some questions. And if there were some questions that I did not answer, feel free to comment below and I'd be happy to do a follow-up video if need be. All right? Take care. Happy training. Bye-bye now.